Any opposed? Seeing none. Looking at confirmation of the agenda, is there any changes or things that came up? Okay, great. So can I get a mover and a seconder to approve the agenda as shown? Moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Have the agenda as presented. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, carried. Disclosure of pecuniary at the table. Okay, seeing none. Approval of previous minutes. Were there any corrections or amendments that anybody caught? None, see none. Okay. Can I get a mover and a second to approve the previous meetings? Meeting minutes, sorry. Moved by Councillor McDonnell. I saw a glass go up. I'm going to give this one to Councillor Jaworski. All those in favor of the minutes as presented for the previous meeting? Any opposed? Seeing none. There's no presentations and delegations. Then we'll turn to general business and reports. That's A1423 Taylor. Mr. Irwin.
Thank you, Chair. I'll start with some required wording under the Planning Act. This is a hearing under Section 44 of the Ontario Planning Act. Any person may attend this hearing and or make written or verbal representation either in support of or in opposition to the proposed minor variance. If a person, the applicant, or public body does not make oral or written submissions at this hearing before the minor variance is decided upon, their comments will not be considered by the Committee of Adjustment. Only the applicant, the municipality, the Minister of Municipal Affairs, or certain public bodies may appeal the decision of the minor variance of the Committee of Adjustment to the Ontario Land Tribunal, also known as the OLT, within 20 days of the decision. Note that the committee members have reviewed the application along with any written submissions received in support or in opposition prior to this hearing, and in addition, we'll hear today oral submissions from the interested parties. So the subject property in this file is legally described as part of Lot 22, Concession 1, front being parts 3, 4, and 7 of Reference Plan 14R439. In the geographic township of Charlottenburg, now in the township of South Glengarry, County of Glengarry, located at 18734 County Road 2, and the property is approximately 0.71 acres in area. Here's a map showing the location of the property along the south side of County Road 2. And the purpose of the proposed variance is that the owners constructed a shed within the required 30-meter watercourse setback and the 6-meter rear yard setback on the subject property. The following relief from the zoning bylaw, or from zoning bylaw 3809 is requested. So for part 3.397, to reduce the watercourse setback from 30 meters to 2.9 meters to the southeast corner of the proposed shed, and 3.5 meters from the southwest corner of the proposed shed. And part 6.2 as well, to reduce the rear yard setback from 6 meters to 2.9 meters to the southeast corner of the shed, and 3.5 meters to the southwest corner of the proposed shed. Here is a zoomed out version of their survey showing the location of the shed, and a zoomed in version here showing the proposed setbacks. This being zoomed into the southwest corner of the subject property. Here are some site photos taken from County Road 2, mostly facing to the south. And on this next photo, you can see the shed that's there. The property is currently designated a rural district in the county official plan, and the application does conform to the general intent of the official plan. The property is also zoned residential 1 and floodplain holding in the zoning bylaw of the Township of South Glengarry, and this application does conform to the general intent of the zoning bylaw. Here is a zoning map showing primarily residential zoning on the south side and rural zoning on the north side of County Road 2. And the application was circulated to all abutting property owners within 60 meters and applicable municipal staff, and we've not received any written or verbal comments to date. The application was also circulated to the United Counties of SD&G, and they have confirmed that they have no comment on the proposed variance. The application was also circulated to the Raisin Region Conservation Authority, and they provided the following comments: that the RCA has had the occasion to discuss this application through several consultations with Dr. Taylor, the applicant, including a site visit from our regulations officer. The RCA does not object to the minor variance, as the location of the shed is above the flooding hazard and there is not an unacceptable risk to life or property. The site is still within the RCA's regulated area, regulatory authority, and a permit from their office is still required and shall be able to be issued pending the minor variance approval. Planning and building departments do support this application and recommend it to be approved. And we can move on to any questions from the committee and public. Start with the committee.
All right, are there any questions amongst the committee table? Are there any questions in the audience or comments? Yes. If you may, just step up to the mic, and the button is just the gray button. Turn it on, and it picks up pretty well.
Dan Allaire, 18729 Highway 2, County Road 2. If you recall, I believe, Joanne, I called you, I complained, I think it was August 11th last year, that there was 2 sheds getting built, and this is only addressing 1 shed. And that there was a mobile home station there, and there's basically a campsite built on that site as well. That's not being addressed. I don't know why the second shed is not mentioned on the east side.
Okay, Ms. Haley?
Through you, Mr. Chair,
And
thank you.
just remember my mic.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, thank you, Mr. Allaire, for your question. I believe you're referring to a different parcel of property. If you don't mind, if you can go back to show the photos of the property. So the property that we're talking about is this one that has an existing dwelling on it?
Yes? Yeah, 18734, right?
And so this is, it has an existing residential dwelling?
See the shed on the east side? That was put up in the spring of 2022.
Okay. Then I'm incorrect then, sir. I was thinking of a different parcel of property that you were referring to in terms of a camper and 2 sheds.
Yes, the camper, there's a camper on the east side. It's a mobile home,
Okay.
and it's there all summer long, and it's being used. And there's a shed that was put up last spring, and then this other shed.
Okay.
There's 3/4 of an acre there. The property's cluttered.
Okay.
Okay, I do see a question perhaps from Deputy Mayor Lang or Committee Member Lang.
I drove by yesterday to look at it. I did see the shed on the east side.
Yes.
I didn't get out and step it off or anything, but I don't think
Can you
that
just-
shed is within the 30 meters that we're talking about.
Can you please just say that
Yeah,
with the mic on?
It's
This is to address the minor variance, I believe, for the shed that's too close to the water within the 30 meters. I saw the shed on the other side, and it looked like it was further than 30 meters from the water, so I don't think that's for this committee to discuss, as far as I
But
know.
it was
And if it's
still-
under the 160 square feet, that doesn't need a permit, likely there's nothing to be discussed. But anyway, it's not for us to decide. If we have to decide a minor variance on the one that's too close to the water.
okay.
So just to further that discussion, Mr. Allaire, I will follow up with you tomorrow during office hours to rediscuss your concerns with you to ensure that I have the correct parcel of property and that we've addressed your concerns.
It's 18734 Highway 2, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
I
Councillor, or Committee Member McDonnell and then Jaworski?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just a question, I guess, for Ms. Haley, I guess. What's our bylaw regarding campers, et cetera? I
Yeah.
know there's something, this came up in the past in Martintown, so.
So through you, Mr. Chair, any parcel of property that is developed that contains a single detached dwelling or a dwelling is permitted to have a camping trailer parked in their yard. So for example, anyone in this room could own a camping trailer. It's considered a licensed vehicle just like your car or truck. We don't want that camping trailer to be occupied as a dwelling for a seasonal dwelling purpose. So again, we can't stop people from parking their personal vehicles in their yard, but we just don't want that camping trailer to be inhabited. And the reason for that is because we want to ensure that the waste is being disposed of properly. And also, we have a lot of campgrounds in our municipality where we encourage people to camp in our campgrounds that are approved. So I believe that answers your question, Mr. McDonnell.
Go ahead.
if I may,
Yes, go ahead.
you
And then-
allow the owner to have a camper or a mobile home on his property?
So through you, Mr. Chair, again, this is not the purpose of just the meeting this evening because a trailer is not being discussed or requested in the application. So I'll follow up with you on the details of our bylaw and what's permitted in tomorrow and during office
But it
hours.
is part of my objection to the minor variance because there's so much clutter on the property.
Okay.
Yep. I think Councillor McDonnell has a question about it, and we'll go to Councillor Jaworski.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. I guess we're only here, we have to look with blinders on. We're looking at the little shed down by the river. It seems like the other one complies because it doesn't require a building permit because it's under a certain size.
Okay.
So unless it's too close to the property line, or you feel there's something in regards to the one
Well,
that's, that
it's
we're
being.
talking about
it's-
directly.
It's being used, that shed is being used by apparently a tenant that
This,
lives in the basement.
this is the one down by the river?
Yeah,
Okay.
by the tenant who lives in the basement, but lives in the mobile home simultaneously.
Okay. Well, I think if we're looking straight at our issue right now that we're here to look at,
Okay.
if there's another minor variance in the future, for the other shed or for something else, or for redevelopment or something
Okay.
else, that's when we can look at that,
Could I
unfortunately.
bring up another question? The public notice signs, when they're put up on the property, one was put on this property about this minor variance. How long is that supposed to stay up?
So through you, Mr. Chair, when the notice is placed by an employee of the municipality, it is required to stay up during the duration of the public notice requirements. So for example, it has to be up a minimum of 10 days in advance of the public meeting. There are sometimes where maybe weather or wind takes them down, but we ask the applicants or public not to remove the signs.
It was up for one day, and it's been down in the
Sure.
ditch. Does anybody ever drive down to number 2?
So regarding the sign coming down, Dr. Taylor, the applicant had called me to tell me that the weather had knocked it down, and I'd requested our bylaw officer go out and replace it, and to my understanding, it had been replaced.
You want to see pictures?
In this case, I suppose a lot of what this discussion is being had right now is for, that you're going to administratively deal with today, but we are slightly off track. I'd say for the issue, as Councillor McDonnell had mentioned, we're focusing on that shed, and I think Joanne or Ms. Haley will follow up tomorrow regarding,
We're not off track if the sign is a requirement for the minor variance.
okay, procedurally?
So, Mr. Allaire, do you have a specific concern with the requested minor variance in terms of the shed?
Yes.
If so, can you please express your concerns
Yes.
regarding that shed? Thank you.
Okay, it's impeding my view of the river, and it adds clutter already to a cluttered 3/4 of an acre. With the other shed and the mobile home.
So, Mr. Chair, a view is something that we don't consider. If you want to guarantee your view, then you would have to own waterfront property. We can't stop people from developing on the south side if they're entitled to apply for permits and apply for approvals. In this case, the applicant is going through the requested process. It's up to the committee to determine if the shed is permitted to stay in this location with the setbacks as requested. But view is something that we don't consider, unfortunately.
Councillor McDonnell?
At this point, with the shed itself, I personally have no objection. I move to approve as presented.
Okay, before, can we go to
Yep.
Councillor Jaworski, but we'll come back to that moving. Councillor Jaworski?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor McDonald. I had a couple questions. So, I know you said, I'll wait, because my question's for staff. It's okay, I can be patient. No, that's fine. So I believe you said that there were you didn't receive any written comments from members of the public. But I just want to ask very specifically, the folks who are on the west side of them, and the fact that like this shed is, I'm not going to say it's right up against the property line, but it's definitely within, they're asking for a setback reduction, right, for the side yard? There was no, did we hear at all from those folks on their west side?
That'd be Dr. Tombler.
I hadn't received any comments prior to the meeting, no.
Okay, thank you. And then my other question, and maybe this is, and I apologize to other members of the committee. I just, sometimes it seems I'm not always able to follow when things are allowed within that 15 meter. I understand there's a 30, and then we can approve up to a 15 without, that's very flexible. But then when it goes closer than the 15, I'm not, it's sometimes unclear to me why sometimes it's being supported and other times it's not. And I guess I want to ensure that we're applying the same rules to, as best we can. I know we're supposed to look at these each on their merit, but, you know, the same rules. And I guess the fact that this is a bit of a retroactive situation too, I just want to be clear on that. So I don't know if you could speak to that, Ms. Haley, on why we approve this one, or why staff is supporting this one. Pardon me?
Okay, sorry, Mr. Chair, I was just trying to confirm something. I'm just back from 2 weeks vacation. So today was my first day back in the office, so I'm just, I apologize. Wanting to make sure I'm not missing anything, and I'm referring to Max on a couple of occasions here, just to make sure my information is correct. So when you read the bylaw, we talk about a 30-meter required watercourse setback for development, and that comes from the Ministry of Natural Resources technical guidelines. Our zoning bylaw says that we can reduce the setback to 15 meters, subject to review of policies and the consideration of the Region Conservation Authority. And then, if people want to go beyond that, then they have the right to apply for a minor variance and ask for a reduced setback. So what we do in that case is we work with the local conservation authority to determine if the proposed structure is going to create any unsafe situation. Is the structure being inhabited? How close is it to the shoreline? Is it located within the floodplain? Is it a risk to have that structure there? And we rely heavily on the Conservation Authority to make a recommendation to determine if that structure can be located there, or in this case, if it can remain there. And so the Conservation Authority has been involved in this file for quite some time. As you can see in their comments, they had numerous conversations, and they've determined that this is a structure that they can support. And you saw their comments. So from a planning perspective, as long as we've reviewed the policies and we've considered them, and we feel that it's not going to be, you know, a health and safety issue, or it's not going to cause any harm, we also then, the Committee of Adjustment is required to look at the 4 tests. So when you're making a decision or a recommendation, you want to consider, does it meet the general intent of the official plan? Does it meet the general intent of the bylaw? And you're looking at both from setbacks as well as use. And is it considered minor in nature? And we all know that minor is not defined, so it becomes subjective to the individuals. And then we also look at, you know, does it negatively impact the property, the surrounding landowners, and those things. So we've had many sheds that have been applied for and approved. Oftentimes, though, is we're dealing with structures on existing footprints or grandfathered footprints where there's a portion of the structure's been there or not. And in this case, that was not the case. The shed was brought on, and we became aware of that shed and followed up with the applicant. So we would have the right, the Committee of Adjustment has the right to recommend the application to be approved or the application to be refused based on the knowledge and the information that's been provided to you this evening.
Thank you.
Okay, I also see that we now have Mr. Taylor online. Is he wishing to have a conversation? Like, I saw he popped on while this was going on. Does he wish to speak? Hello, Mr. Taylor, can you hear us? If you can, we cannot presently hear you. But his mic is... I did see in the bottom left, it did say to join audio. I don't know if we need to join audio. Hello? Could you try talking again, Mr. Taylor?
Was this mute?
We can now hear you.
There you go.
Which is not on.
We can now hear you if you can hear us, if you wish to speak to this application.
Oh, yeah. No?
It's up all the way. But wait till she
Wait,
starts
no,
talking.
you hear something. No, wait. Oh, it's from you.
Roger, stop.
Hello, Mr. Taylor, can you hear us? We can hear you. Is there any way to do more in chat? Maybe we can let him know that we can hear him. Just
We can hear you. Okay, I can't hear you. And the chat is disabled. She says try again. There's nothing.
can you still not hear us? I think then we should defer the application.
Not likely. And it looks like your minds have been made up. So maybe I should just leave.
That is a possibility if there's a mover and a second in
Usual.
favor of it.
Is it your Gmail?
So in case that doesn't come up, the question was asked, can you explain or provide information on why you placed the shed in this specific location? And Mr. Taylor, who is the applicant, responded there was an existing shed there that was dilapidated and the roof was caving in. It was an unsafe building.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the reason for asking that question is because I wanted the applicant to explain the scenario as to what was there previously, why it was removed, and what was replaced. It's not the municipality's employees' responsibility to advocate on behalf of the applicant. It's the applicant's responsibility to explain what they have on the property, what they're proposing to do, or what they've done. And this is why it's placed in the location or the configuration it's in. It's just a little larger than what it was, which triggers the variance. So if you noticed it was on an angle, we asked him to work within the footprint. And so I need the applicant to explain all of that though again, because I'm not the one that owned the parcel of property and knows the detail of all the buildings and the in and out and what it was used for and things like that. We do have in the file a survey that was completed, and the survey that was completed after the fact, because in this particular case, the property owner didn't check with the municipality in advance of removing and replacing the shed. And so it's difficult for the surveyor to go back and survey a location of a structure that's no longer there. And again, it's up to us when we do our jobs to offer the public all opportunities to either gain approval or come into compliance. And so in this particular case, the applicant chose to apply for the variance.
So basically, don't apply for a permit, just apply for forgiveness?
Is that, oh, it's not.
So through you, Mr. Chair, building permits are not required for sheds that are
See, I can
under
hear you.
16 square meters.
Yeah.
But the location matters.
The location absolutely matters. And this is why we give the applicant the opportunity
I
to
think
come into
they are on
conformity and
mute
apply
'cause I
for
can hear
variance
your
or
computer.
relocate the shed, and they've chosen to apply.
Okay, given, I guess we're having trouble here, and does the committee wish to? I know you had.
I think we need to decide whether we're gonna defer, we're gonna make a motion to either approve or disapprove, because we've
Yes.
got another meeting in 1 minute.
Yes, I do agree with you on that, and given our difficulties, I'd get your opinion. So Deputy Mayor Lang?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you. Mr. Allaire, is it Allaire? I think you're annoyed about your sight lines, and I mean, everybody would be. I have a lot across from me that I hope nobody ever builds on, because I'll lose a lot of my view. Won't be able to see the river because I'm way off the river. But that, I think that's besides the point. I mean, if you are determined to keep your sightlines, as Ms. Haley said, you have to kind of buy the property, and then you have control of it. So I think that's not really a valid reason for us to turn it down. The fact that there was an existing shed there, I think myself, if we're able to let somebody do something on their own property, I like to do it. And the same would be for you. If you wanted to build something in your property and it was within our ability to let you do it, it's your property, I would try to do that as well. So I'm going to second Mr. McDonnell's motion, I think, and
It
vote to
should be
approve this.
noted that the original shed was also put up without a minor variance, right?
And that may be, but, you know, things happen. There's a lot of buildings along that river that are closer than 30 meters, a lot.
Okay, then I do see a mover and a seconder to approve the application as presented. So I'll put it to vote. All those in favor? Any of opposed? Seeing none, carried. So then we will, there is a follow-up to be made on the property standards bylaw, so that will be administrative, and Ms. Haley will contact you tomorrow. I believe your information is there, and you can go from there. Ms. Haley, do you have anything additional?
Yes, thank you for your patience with that, Mr. Allaire. There's a lot of inquiries that come into our office, so I don't recall the specificities of your discussion from last summer, but I'm happy to follow up, so thank you.
That's fine. I had spoken to Mr. Irwin. Mr. Irwin had followed up, and he had called me. And I had expressed regret for complaining, because you just don't do that to neighbors, but the clutter on the property just got out of hand. It just got out of hand.
Okay, so then that will be followed up tomorrow. For the next step in our meeting, it would be then, do we have a date for the next meeting?
We do not at this time.
Do I still reserve the right to appeal to the OMB?
go ahead.
Yes, sir, you can appeal the decision. It's now called the Ontario Land Tribunal. We will issue a written decision, and you will receive a copy in the mail. You have, you'll see that the appeal period will expire on Monday, September 25th, and you'll be required to complete the prescribed forms and the fee of $400 made payable to the Minister of Finance. And then at that point, you can then work with the Ontario Land Tribunal to prove why the proposed shed doesn't conform to the policies and why it shouldn't have been approved.
Okay. One more thing, I'm curious, whenever I called, they were just pouring a foundation, there was no building there, and then the building happened there after I called. Had you gone to inspect the foundation prior to the building going up?
Sorry, this is getting beyond the scope. We're late for another meeting. I'm sorry, Mr. Allaire. I hate being the bad person at this. We've got staff that can answer all your questions tomorrow, but we have a schedule and we're gonna be here late tonight already as it is. I really hate to do this, but can you call this meeting?
Yes, you had mentioned you saw closed session, though. Is there any closed session items?
No.
Okay, perfect. So then no meeting, and then a mover and a seconder to adjourn the meeting. Moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor McNell. Be it resolved that we're closed at 6:33 to the call of the chair. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.